So I've just been to see the last 4 or 5 hours of Ted Cruz's 22-hour filibuster. And as I came out of the somewhat fascist visitor center that they built, it's kind of a slopey thing that goes into the earth under the Capitol that they make visitors go through, and then they take away all your electronics once you get in the building. You're not allowed to actually watch the Senate and carry in a camera or an iPad or radio or cell phone. And you're segregated from where the reporters are, and you're not allowed to touch the rail, even though the reporters get to. But when you come out at this interesting vantage point. So I'm going to make a little film of it, since it is an interesting vantage point of the Capitol and the Supreme Court, Library of Congress, the House buildings. I have to walk back over to the Senate building because that's where I parked my bicycle. This was a green trip to the filibuster. Anyway, here's the actual kind of pathway you descend into if you're a visitor. It's so the Congress people didn't have to smell hot, sweaty tourists. And tourists are funny looking. I mean, you can tell they're tourists and they're not from Washington. They could just barely be from somewhere in Maryland or Virginia, sort of out just beyond the Beltway. But you can tell that they're from somewhere else, somewhere where you probably used to grow up. Anyway, but since in the myth, and it is a myth, it's not even a theory, Congress works for them, the fact that they're now segregated and have their own special entrance, they're kind of very pretty cattle chute to go into Congress is kind of embarrassing. Anyway, I think that's the Supreme Court right there. Yeah, it is. Under scaffolding. It's been under scaffolding all year. On the east side of the Capitol are the Senate office buildings, which is what you're seeing there through the trees. I think there are 3 of them now. Hart, Dirksen, and something else, I don't know. And over on that side, that's the Library of Congress, are the House buildings. And I think there are also 3 of them. There might be 4 of one or the other. I think the Rayburn is one of the House buildings, and Dirksen is one of the Senate buildings. Dirksen is where Cruz's office is. Hart is the newer building. I think Rand Paul is also in Dirksen. I don't know if I got those homeless ladies with all their bags and a shot, but they were there at 7:30 when I showed up. Apparently they just lived there. This is the lobby of the United Methodist, which is a very liberal denomination. It's essentially a liberal lobby. They work on, when I first moved to Washington, they were working on against draft registration. But I think that's probably about the most libertarian issue they've ever worked on. I think in general, they're just in favor of more government social spending, maybe abortion rights, and that's kind of all they do. Building with the flag is the Dirksen Senate office building, which if you come to at 7:30 in the morning, as I did, to pick up a pass, because you have to have a pass to go to the visitor center. You have to have a representative give you a pass. Then you get to go through metal detectors in the as you enter the building at that cattle chute, and then you get to go through them again at the Senate gallery, but you also get stripped of all your electronics, which are put in a little holding coat check type area. I did not tip the guy because I was not checking a code. I was checking things I didn't want to check. And I don't feel bad about that. Anyway, you can see that building is a little newer than this one. Here's the Reserve Officers Association, so essentially another lobby. Well, that's the Russell building. So the Senate buildings are Russell, Dirksen, and Hart, all named after senators. I hope to God the Hart building's not named after Gary Hart, but you know it might be. Does that mean someday there will be a Wiener building? Or a Spitzer or a Clinton? Anybody who can't keep it in their pants gets a building. It's probably some other Hart. I think that's the Hart building beyond it, the newer one on the edge. We're not really getting a clear shot of it. This one is Dirksen. And we're only walking past it because it's where my bicycle is parked. Because I had to go all the way, not to this side of the building near the Capitol, but to the opposite side of the building. Because it's the only side that's open at 7:30. Anyway, that's Union Station beyond on the horizon, where Amtrak and MARC trains come to town. This is pretty much what Capitol Hill is like all the time, too. It's very pretty, it's very manicured. When the weather's beautiful, I mean, it would be great just to treat it as a park if you live in D.C. I don't think anybody in D.C. really has time to do it. Or they don't think they do, or they don't think of it, but just coming here and sitting amidst the roses and cherry trees on benches and reading a book would probably be a lot of fun. Or very peaceful, more so than whatever you might normally be doing. You know what, now that I think about it, Cruz is in Dirksen and Rand Paul, I think, is in Russell. I've been to Rand Paul's office once before, and I think I came to the Russell building. I came to this building. You can see how very Versailles it is. I mean, these people, now a lot of this was built a long time ago when it was cheaper to build, but it's a kind of spare no expense. Latatis c'est moi. Let them eat cake. We've got your tax money and we'll spend it any way we want to build ourselves these grand office buildings type culture. One of the buildings over on the edge, I'm not sure if it's that one, the Heritage Foundation is near here. See all the construction in the distance. That's where a bunch of government buildings have been built and are still being built, including the new Securities and Exchange Commission. They all have these swanky, curved, super modern glass office type deals. Oh no, Heritage Foundation is farther over. I'm not really quite sure what that building is. Over that way is where all the TV stations are. They're all in the building. CNN and Fox. They all have offices in one of those little buildings, as do a bunch of labor unions. Anyway, when you, sort of right on the other side of the fountain, when you see Sunday TV shows and out the window, it's the Capitol. They're in those buildings looking out. We reached my service for Governor Bike, so this tape is not going to end.